Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. Glad to have you here. Of course, we're going to continue the summer DVD horror movie series, review series that I'm doing for this month. I've got my Jaws shirt on here, as you can see. And even though we're not reviewing Jaws, it's definitely very much a summer horror shirt. The movie we're actually going to take a look at today is a camp slasher movie from more recent times, 2014, and that is Camp Dread, which was a direct to video released movie, no theatrical release, and it's an independent, lower budget kind of camp slasher movie that very much is a throwback to the 80s camp slasher. So, yeah, Camp Dread with Eric Roberts and Danielle Harris from 2014. Let's just go ahead and get into it. It was a first time watch for me. Camp Dread is a 2014 American horror film written and directed by Harrison Smith and starring Eric Roberts and Danielle Harris. So basically, the movie is about there's a summer camp horror trilogy that was once one of the most popular franchises of the 1980s. However, the decade ended, and so did director Julian Barrett's career. Now, Barrett plans to resurrect his gory series via a modern reboot patterned after reality filmmaking. With his former leading lady and a group of 10 young troublemaking contestants, Barrett returns to the same locale where his old splatter fests were filmed. When one of the campers is found savagely murdered, they realize there's more at stake than just fame and fortune. Each of them is in a fight for their lives as they realize summer is over forever. While out in the woods filming a reality show, a camper is found murdered. The contestants realize there's more at stake than fame and fortune as they prepare for a fight of their lives. So, yeah, I kind of doubled up on that because it was hard to find information about this movie. They didn't have much on Wikipedia, which is where I normally go. And I'm sure it's because it's an obscure movie that was direct to video. But as far as the cast goes, we have Eric Roberts as Julian Barrett, Danielle Harris as Sheriff Donlin Eldridge, and Felicia Rose as Rachel Steele and Joe Raffa as Novak. And of course, there's a lot of other characters of the young adults. I'm not going to list all of them here, but that's kind of the idea, the setup and the premise for Camp Dread from 2014. Basically, this guy was a former director of this trilogy, Camp Slasher trilogy series in the 80s, and now he's trying to revive it by bringing 10 young adults that are in trouble with the law in some ways. And they kind of have to go to this camp in order to avoid worse penalties like jail or whatever. And none of them really want to be there. They don't really know why they're there, but they have to go to this camp. And like it said, he's going to shoot another movie, but this time in a reality based filmmaking situation. So for any of you that like reality TV, I'm not really one of them, but reality TV and slasher movies, this might be something you want to check out. But let's talk about my review of the movie. Overall, I think this is a pretty good 80s throwback camp slasher movie. Not perfect. It is direct to video, but I think given the fact that it is direct to video and it's independent, lower budget, I actually think I give it more of the benefit of the doubt because of that, because it's actually fairly well made considering those things. So let's get into it. So, first of all, for the lower budget and the fact that it's a direct to video slasher movie, this one's pretty competent from a technical standpoint. The camera work, the setting, I like the camp setting, the production, which goes into that, and the practical effects that they use, like the gore effects and the blood, I think is all it's all pretty good. None of it is cheesy or looks bad like you might expect for a lower budget kind of movie. Therefore, giving the fact that it's somewhat of an 80s throwback feel, which it has, that's what they're going for here. So I guess in that way it is successful and it does work. So from a technical standpoint, definitely a thumbs up for Camp Dread. I think Eric Roberts and Felicia Rose are the two standouts here, the two stars of the movie. They both do a really good job in this movie. It's really cool to see Felicia Rose in her role here, which is basically a camp counselor. Like she was the star of his movies back in the 80s, and there's a lot of parodies here. Um, this trilogy back in the 80s, and she comes back, and now she's actually a counselor, thus thus being back at camp, being a camp counselor. Kind of a pun there. Um, but she does a great job in this movie, and it's really good to see her back in this kind of role. Obviously, from the Sleepaway Camp series. Of course, she was only in the first one, but she played that character that was in a trilogy, just kind of like that. That's obviously sort of what this is parodying, and I can't talk today to a certain extent. So I think the kills are pretty good here for the most part. There's two in particular that I really like that were good and gory. One involves an arrow through an eye where you actually see the eyeball come out. And the other one involves some sort of acidic cleaning solution that gets poured down a character's throat that has a lot of like melting, like gore and stuff on the throat. And that was really cool. There's a couple off screen kills too, but some decent blood and gore. Again, you're going to hear me say this, especially for a lower budget, straight to video kind of movie, which I don't have high expectations for movies like that. So the fact is, this movie, given that starting point, actually succeeded my expectations, not by a lot, but it did exceed them by some. Once the kills get going, which admittedly does take some time, we'll get into that in the cons. They are pretty consistent once they get going. And then the movie also does have a couple of fun twists towards the end. Um, I would say I figured out one and a half of them, and I'll explain more as I get to the end of this review. But they weren't like the most amazing twists or anything. I mean, one of them was pretty obvious in my opinion, but they're still kind of fun, especially for this kind of movie. I did really enjoy the summer camp setting, and it's done pretty well here. As I said, I love Felicia Rose in this camp slasher movie as the camp counselor. Very fun and fitting. And I think she's actually the star of the movie, frankly, even more so than Eric Roberts, although those two really do stand out. But I would say overall, it's a pretty fun 80s camp slasher throwback with some good kills, some good gore, and performances. So that's kind of my overall positive take on Camp Dread from 2014. Um, yeah, it's a good time for the most part. Getting into the cons, this is one of the big ones right here. Um, they have Danielle Harris as the second bill in this movie, and the fact of the matter is, I want to tell you before you go in to watch this, she's maybe in 5 minutes of the movie, frankly. She's in a couple minutes at the beginning and a couple minutes at the end. And that's a bad thing for a couple reasons. One, it kind of gives away one of the twists. And two, you want to see more Danielle Harris. I mean, a horror movie like this, and she's top billing, second top biller in the movie, and you only get 5 minutes of her. That's disappointing, and I would definitely consider that false marketing, to say the least. So just know that going in, though she is in this movie, beginning and end, for a total of about 5 to 7 minutes, maybe. The younger characters we are introduced to are pretty hard to stomach for very long. And I know that's kind of the point, given the fact that these are all sort of cut ups and they're young adults, probably between like 21 and 25 or something. I don't know. So they're not like high school kids, but still, they just they kind of have a very douchey kind of attitude, all of them. They're really hard to take for very long. And I was really waiting for them to get killed within 5 minutes of meeting their characters, frankly. And on that note, it does take a while to get to the good stuff, meaning the kills and the twists and the crux of the movie. Well, they unsuccessfully, in my opinion, tell us about who these characters are, why they're here, etc., etc. Now, look, sometimes in slasher movies, it's nice to have a little bit about the characters. It makes you care about them more. But the fact that this movie had 10 young characters, which is hard enough to keep up on, like with names and everything, and they're really just not all that interesting. I mean, none of the backstory they give us. I mean, they're all in trouble with the law, basically. They're all like try to be badasses, or however you want to say it, and they're out for themselves, very selfish and douchey. I don't know. I just thought it was unnecessary to spend that much time, and you kind of do the first 20 to 25 minutes of the movie. Um, on that note, the movie does have some pacing issues with too much unsuccessful setup at the beginning of the movie when it's not needed, and you get all the kills and the good stuff in the back half. So I guess the best takeaway from that is stick with this movie, even if it seems kind of like it's dragging a bit in the first half hour or so. It does get a lot better the second half of the movie. That's one positive that I can say about this movie. And I think the third act and the final conclusion is pretty good, even though, as I said, I did see pretty much all the twists, the one and a half out of the two twists that we get. Um, as far as who's doing this, and then also who's doing this. That's as much as I want to say without giving too much away. But that doesn't mean they're bad twists. I'm maybe just that smart. I don't know. I'm very good at figuring out horror twists now. No, no, there's been some that's gotten me over the years, but I did see this one coming at least a good one and a half parts of the two anyway. So I think I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10 overall. Like I said, you could do a lot worse for a modern 2010s camp slasher movie that's a throwback to the 80s. For what it is, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty entertaining, and it's not a bad summer movie to have in your collection to watch this time of year. So, 6 out of 10 for Camp Dread with Eric Roberts and Felicia Rose, and 5 minutes of Danelle Harris. Go ahead and comment down below if any of you guys have seen Camp Dread from 2014. Do you like it more than I do? Less? Why not? Comment down below. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for the rest of this series or any of my other great horror content that I have coming out for the rest of the year. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you're enjoying the series overall. And as always, stay scared. Bye.